everybody. Welcome to SNY's new digital weekly football series, The Tailgate. I'm Michelle Margaux, that's Ralph Vacchiano. Ralph, what do you expect from the show?
Well, I certainly am hoping that we at least get through this first episode with no big problems, but mostly I am expecting a lot of excitement about this football season. It's been a long time coming, and really, I'm kind of hopeful because, let's face it, New York football has been absolutely miserable the last few years, so I really do hope this is fun.
I definitely hope it's fun, and I think it will be no matter what, because back in March, we didn't know what was going to be happening with any sports, and now it seems as if, fingers crossed, there will be a football season. Which quarterback in New York, Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones, do you think is going to have a better 2020 season?
If you had asked me this back in March, I would have told you Sam Darnold because I thought he was a step ahead, but boy, you look at what has happened to the Jets receivers and all their weapons. I think it's going to be Daniel Jones having the better season. If they can just protect Daniel Jones a little bit, I think he really can take a step, not quite to the elite level, but probably pretty close.
The success of the Jets will hinge on blank.
I think it hinges on Greg Williams and the defense. Honestly, last year, Greg Williams performed a miracle with that defense. They traded away their best player in Jamal Adams, so Greg Williams will have to work some magic again.
We're going to take a look at the top 5 moments from Joe Judge's head coaching tenure so far, leading up to the NFL draft in April. He said that his dog, Abby, can, quote, probably tell you more about who we're taking in the first round than anyone else, end quote. Ralph?
Well, first of all, look at that dog. That is a good dog. And I know everybody fell in love with Bill Belichick's dog during the draft. Abby did not nearly get enough screen time. So we're fixing that, which is good. And by the way, she had a pretty good draft. The Giants are pleased with the guys they have. They got a lot of players that I think will contribute this year. Of course, that depends on how well Joe Judge coaches them, which brings us to number 4, which is Joe Judge on his coaching philosophy.
You have to know who you can use with a limited menu. It's kind of like when you're hungry, you go to the fridge, and your dad says, figure out a way to make a sandwich. You know what's in there, but you got to find a way, because you got to eat, right? So I got to know what everybody does so I can put those ingredients together and get the most out of it.
Well, first of all, that is so relatable from a food standpoint. And secondly, I think of that as a baseball manager coming up with different combinations of lineups every day, so I like that. All right, now let's move on to number 3. When asked about taking the red jersey off of quarterback Daniel Jones, Joe Judge said, quote, we're not going to throw him into a Royal Rumble or anything like that, but we might puff his pads a little bit.
I love this. Quarterbacks get hit in the preseason, and there were no preseason games this year, so it wasn't as crazy or as stupid as a lot of people made it sound.
Yeah, when he was asked about it the next day, he didn't exactly back down.
Yeah, I got the strength staff downstairs when I'm putting bars of soap and socks, and what's going to take him out back is way on for a while.
Okay, so Joe Judge didn't beat Jones up this summer, but that does bring us to number 2. He did make Daniel Jones run penalty laps along with plenty of other players and coaches this summer, and that was the scourge of Giants camp. You listen to a lot of former players on the outside.
So, unpopular opinion, I actually like it. I think it evens the playing field. I think that in a sport like football, it's the only sport you can get away with that. I always root for the underdog, and I feel like the players that would normally have to run laps and Daniel Jones wouldn't, kind of decreases resentment on their end. All right, let's go to the top Joe Judge moment of his head coaching tenure so far. It's an easy number 1. It is Joe Judge falling on the ball during a team slip and slide drill. Personally, I love this, Ralph. I'm sure you do as well.
It was fantastic, and the players loved it, and it sort of turned the tide on the public perception of Joe Judge. Suddenly, he was a tyrant before, and now he's a guy that the players love.
Yeah, he did a lot more than just show them how to do that drill. I think that he gained a lot of respect from showing them that he's going to do what he's asking them to do. All right, let's enter the friend zone and welcome in our friend Kevin Burkhardt from Fox Sports. What initially drew you to football?
So I grew up in a big sports house. I grew up in my parents and my brother were big sports fans, and we were big baseball fans at the Mets and listened to those games on radio, and that was kind of, that was in my blood. And then the NFL, and truthfully, the NFL on Fox, especially with Pat Summerall and John Madden, that was their soundtrack on Sunday. That was the family thing. That as much as anything else got me into the craft of announcing and just paying attention to what they were doing and how they were doing it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what your career highlight was, but I know that was being on a panel of Daily News Live with me back in the day. So what was the moment where you thought, wow, this is real now? I'm really calling an NFL game here. This is incredible.
So my first NFL game on Fox was 2013, and I had a Jets game. It was pretty awesome because I was home, my home fans, if you would, and I was like, is this real? Am I going to wake up at some point and realize like this whole like late game thing is just some kind of concocted dream? So that was just awesome.
How different is your routine going to be during a broadcast week?
Part of the job that I really enjoy, besides actually calling the game, it's everything that leads up to it. So, besides the prep I'm doing at home, it's Fridays, we get to go to the home team's facility, watch the entire practice, and then we get to spend a ton of time in the facility with coaches, with players, talking to people. We get so much information from that. It's great for info, it's great for storytelling for the game, and I just enjoy the interaction, getting to know people, quite honestly. So that's gone, and that sucks.
Well, we've seen it in every other sport so far. How different do you think football is going to be without any fans or with very limited fans?
Every team wants to be home, and there's always the home field advantage. So let's face it, there are some that are way bigger than others. The big thing that I'm curious to see is when you get that, let's say home team's down by 7, fourth quarter, and there's that 3rd and 10 that they've got to get off the field. Look, the crowd has a big part of that. They do, and players have said it. It's a big deal. So can they draw that energy that when they need that little extra, can they draw that on their own?
Ralph, did you see the Nebraska man who went to his local city council with a plea to rename boneless chicken wings?
We've been casually ignoring a problem that has gotten so out of control that our children are throwing around names and words without even understanding their true meaning. I'm talking about boneless chicken wings. Nothing about boneless chicken wings actually come from the wing of a chicken. Boneless chicken wings are just chicken tenders, which are already boneless. We can call them buffalo-style chicken tenders. We can call them wet tenders. We can call them saucy nugs or trash.
Ralph, what is your favorite tailgate food?
Well, I'd be a little afraid to say boneless chicken wings because I don't want to anger that guy, but I actually do like those. I have to be honest, though, being that I'm at NFL games, usually working, my tailgating is whatever the Giants and Jets serve in the press box, so it's nothing compared to what I see outside. People rolling stoves and bringing in their own chefs and putting a pig on whatever that thing is called. It's all just above my head at this point.
Oh yeah, that's next level. I'm personally just like anything carbs, so give me some chips, give me some hot dog buns. I don't even need the meat, and I'm good. All right, well, since this season is so unique and fans cannot be at games, or they will be in very limited capacity, we want to see what you guys are doing at home for your pre-games and your tailgates, so make sure you send in your videos and pictures via Twitter and Instagram using the hashtag SNYTailgate, and you never know, it might be used in the show. Time now for Fantasy Island, where we get you set for the start of fantasy football season. Ralph, what Jet or Giant middle to late round draft pick in your fantasy draft was the most solid pick?
Well, first of all, I'm going to qualify this by telling you that I've been in the same fantasy football league since college, and I last won it in 1998. So you really don't want to listen to me when it comes to fantasy advice. I'll give it to you anyway. For the Giants, in the middle rounds, you're going to find Darius Slayton. I think by the end of the season, he's going to emerge as their #1 receiver. I'm still playing in that league, Michelle, and I need to rename my team to sort of change my luck a little bit. It's been 2 decades. Any thoughts on what a good fantasy football team name would be for me?
I'm a 90s kid, not to date myself, but I like the name Hey Darnold, which is a play on the Nickelodeon show Hey Arnold.
Talk some actual football here. Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold. Kevin, who do you think is going to have the better season?
I'd say Daniel Jones because, I like what's around him a little bit more. We've seen great quarterbacks have disastrous turnover-filled first years of playing, right? I mean, you start and end with Peyton Manning. I'm not saying Daniel Jones is going to be that, but I have to think that he improves in that area where he was a turnover waiting to happen because the good for him is really stellar. I know that Darnold has the tools and the weapons. I saw him enough at USC. I've seen the highlights. I just don't know if the Jets have enough around to make it work. I really don't. I think Jones is in a better spot there.
You are a New Jersey native. You are now living in California. New Jersey or California?
Oh, come on, you can't do that to me. I mean, that's just not fair. I didn't know I was getting these hardcore questions today. Look, I mean, my heart is always Jersey. I'm a Jersey boy. That's kind of my MO, right? I have so much in my life. My whole family is still there. My wife's whole family is still there. So that'll always be a part of who I am. But Cali's not bad. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for being our very first guest on the Tailgate. You can always catch Kevin Burkhardt every single week on NFL on Fox. That'll do it for the Tailgate. We'll see you next week.